Hello, Keith Marchiano, Program Manager for Sales Enablement here at Pax8 Academy. Welcome to another Results Selling Framework podcast. We're heading into the new year, and I get kind of excited for this podcast because I'm trying to do this every year. So for this podcast, we're going to focus on preparing and planning for new monthly reoccurring revenue in the new year and setting goals. This is going to be a goal setting podcast. This is going to apply whether you're the owner of the MSP responsible for your company's growth or a salesperson looking to exceed, sales targets. By doing this in October, November, early December, it allows you time to prepare for the new year and come out of the gate strong. So we're going to look at what did you do in 2025 and what do you need to do in 2026 to effectively grow? Is selling new managed services your top goal? How successful are you? Are you closing 1 to 2 new managed service clients each month? Or are you closing 1 to 2 each quarter or 1 to 2 per year? And how do we build on that year over year? What is possible? This is the time to dream, but don't get out of hand, right? MSPs of top sales organizations are way more efficient. They take time to think about this. If you're an owner and you're doing owner-led sales, 1 to 2 new clients per quarter is an achievable goal. If you're a sales pro, 1 to 2 per month is an achievable goal. You need to have KPIs, measurable, smart KPIs around first-time appointments, average MRR, and your close rate. These are the things we need to figure out, and we're going to work on today to figure out your goal. Today, I'm joined by Jeff Weiss, Executive Coach here at Pax8 Academy. Jeff, welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Been wanting to have you on for a little while. Why don't you tell the
been-
audience who you are, a little background, what you do, and don't forget your one fun fact.
So I'm Jeff Weiss. I'm an executive coach here at Pax8 and been here just about a year now and having a great time doing this. But prior to coming here, I was an MSP owner. I started an MSP in 2003 with another partner, and I divested from it back in 2020s. And since I ended my relationship with my former company, I decided to, instead of starting from scratch and starting from customer zero again, I decided to give back to the community that treated me so well. So I figured I'll get into coaching now and helping other MSPs do the same thing. So here I am. And one fun fact is you can tell by looking at me now, but I used to be a competitive swimmer. So that's my fun fact.
Nice. What was it? 400 butterfly? What'd you do? All of it?
No, backstroke, believe it or not, was my strongest stroke, which, doing a 200 backstroke was my specialty.
Nice.
And I got ribbons to show for it. So
excellent.
That was when I was
I didn't even know that about you. That's awesome.
Yeah? How do you like that?
Yeah. Good deal.
Yep.
So today, you kind of heard my intro. We're going to want to help MSPs. And, if you're an MSP out there, couple things to point out. Jeff and I are going to kind of share a spreadsheet. So if you're just listening in through wherever you stream your podcast, go to Pax8's YouTube channel and look up this podcast, the Results Selling Framework podcast on Pax8 YouTube channel. So that way you can kind of get a visual on what we're going to share today. So, hey, we're gonna take people through setting goals, right? You did it in your MSP. I did it in my MSP. I did it when I was a salesperson, big time. Like I didn't play around. And by the way, for salespeople out there, like if you're given a quota to hit, and you have higher aspirations for your income, by all means, set your goals around what your income goals are, right? Go after what you want to make. Sometimes owners and people you work for just lowball you on the quota. So, that's the beauty of being a salesperson. You can kind of give yourself a raise year over year, right?
Yeah. Start Yeah, work your numbers backwards, right? Pick a number
Yeah.
you want to make and work it that way. That's what I
So we're
always
going to
recommend.
kind of take people through setting these overall goals for 26, but also dive in specifically around monthly and annual reoccurring revenue as well, correct?
Yes,
Awesome.
absolutely. Yeah.
Why don't you share out that the focus planner that we kind of want, this is the planner that we use for when we're coaching MSPs on sales. So, Jeff, why don't you share that out and we'll dive right in.
Yeah, and while I'm doing that, it's important to, and I know you're into sports, right? In baseball,
Of
right?
course.
And you can't hit what you're not watching or looking at, right? So
Mm,
but setting goals was always really, really important, right? For us salespeople, we had to set goals. I mean, you need to know what the score is. You need to know what you need to do to come back and win. And yeah, the only way to do that is to track it.
that's right. And inspect, like, you look at athletes in any sport, baseball, I particularly like. I used to coach baseball. And it's like, what did we do this year? What could we do better as a team next year? What did I do as a player this year? What could I do better as a player next year? What do I need to work on in the off season? For us in business, there is no off season, right? We got to keep on rolling. So I think this is going to be super helpful. Wonderful. This is it. So Jeff's getting situated. So
I'm trying to make it
again, if
bigger.
you're listening to it, make sure, we're going to make sure we break this down for you so you get the same concept as those that are watching this podcast on YouTube. So, Jeff, you as an owner responsible for growth, right? You kind of touched on it, but why set growth goals? And what is like kind of the year over year target an MSP should try to obtain?
Yeah, well, obviously it changes over time. When you're small, it's much easier to grow much faster, right? So I think the first year we were in business, I think we grew over 100%, but obviously the bigger you get, 100% becomes a much bigger number, right? So we use 15 to 20% is healthy growth when you're a little bit more established. But yeah, in the first year or two, it's hard to track.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, you're totally right. Like we went from, I don't know, like I think I had like 300,000 in my first 6 months or something like that. So my goal for the next year was to do 600,000 to double that thing up, right?
Right.
Through managed services. And then to your point, as that number gets higher, it's harder to replicate, 200% growth. It'd be phenomenal if you could do it. But yeah, if you're a $2 million, $3 million MSP, 20% year over year growth is best in class. Managed services growth, I'm going to point out too.
Absolutely. And
Good stuff.
just for our purposes here, we used total revenue of 2 million in our
All right.
example here. Yeah.
Why don't you dive into this? Like, what are we seeing here? What, take somebody through like planning out and inspecting, obviously we've got a few months left in, this year. So you probably want to just forecast out for what you anticipate for this last quarter, right?
Yeah, in another month or so, we should be able to at least get a good idea of where we're going to finish the year, right? At this point, we know what our pipeline is, and we are October 6th. I would say by in a month from now, we should have a good idea of where we're going to finish out the year in terms of forecasting. So let's just assume that in 2025, we're going to hit about $2 million worth of revenue. Let's just say we're at 1.85 right now. So, but if you have the hard number, great. If you want to wait and to do this in January, you could do that. But it's better to prepare and start talking about it now in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, 100%. Like, get an estimate and ish. You're pretty darn close to the actual number right now. You can refine that once you have the actual numbers for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, what in the spreadsheet here in our focus planner, we are going to use, as you can see, we took the 2 million and then we're going to break it down to just services. As we coach, we like to break out our labor in terms of service revenue. And even within service revenue, we have managed services, we have technical services, and we have project services. So that's what this 1.5 is going to be made up of.
Gotcha. And then we did $1 million in total managed services revenue, which is
Right.
nice.
Right.
About
So
80K per month. We're heading in the right direction here.
absolutely. So again, it takes for our plan for 2026 at 20% growth. These are the numbers that we need to achieve. Now, below that, we want to also track the number of customers that we have on contract as well. And this is important because we really need to. I came from a company. We have very low attrition, but unfortunately, some MSPs lose clients every year. Sometimes you can't help losing a client for a whole host of reasons. Sometimes they get merged with another company or they start bringing in their own IT department. So you really should track attrition as well, but we want to really manage the number of customers that we have. So in this particular case, that 2 million worth of revenue actually was made up from 100 different service contract customers that we had. Okay.
Now you just kind of mentioned it. Yeah. No matter how good we are, we're gonna lose clients over time. So I kind of see your numbers here, but how should an MSP plan for churn or attrition of managed service clients? Is there science to it or math numbers we need to focus on?
Well, that's the purpose of this section of the worksheet, is really to start looking at what your attrition rate is, right? So in this case, 5%. If we know that 5%, we know that we have to kind of bump up our goals in order to cover that attrition as well. But most MSPs don't know what their attrition rate is, and I think it's very important in planning.
Yeah, good call out on that. So I think in your example here, we've got a 5% attrition rate. And if I'm assuming this example, the MSP would actually just kind of pull that out of their PSA to kind of figure out what that percentage was for this year.
Yes, absolutely. And it's the number of clients that you lost. So in this particular case, we lost 5 clients out of 100. And I was terrible at math, so that's where we got the 5%.
That's okay.
Nice round number.
I like it. Yeah, nice, easy numbers. It makes it easier. Yeah.
Exactly.
And by the way, as an MSP, you can kind of look at it. Hey, is that out of the ordinary? Is that out, extraordinarily high compared to what we do? Is it low? And then you can kind of look at the plan for next year. But you want to kind of what's acceptable too, right? That's the other piece I would say is this was kind of high. We had this happen, that happened. Kind of like you said, hey, we had a large client that went away because they sold to an even bigger company, or they brought in their own internal IT team, whatever it is. Maybe it's not 5%. Maybe the norm is 2%, right?
Right. Exactly. But it's knowing that number that's the important part here.
Yeah, I agree. So what is, go ahead, keep going. This is awesome.
No, there's one other field here that I just want to point out too, and this is your outreach agreement size, which we'll get into more as we go along, but that's important information that is also going to be part of this conversation, but I'm not ready to explain it yet.
Okay, sounds good. All right. So in this case, we have 100 clients this year, and our plan is to get 117 new clients that would mean we need 22 with an attrition of 5. Okay, got it. That would that would still allow us to achieve our 20% year over year. Excellent.
Yep.
So the beauty, as you know, and you're going to get into this, I'm going to kind of tee it up for you. The beauty of our industry is the compounding effect of managed services, right? So if you picked up a managed service client this year in September, you're not getting a full year of managed services out of them. But next year, you will. And that trickles into this rule of 78, Jeff. Can you kind of go into like what is the rule of 78 and kind of how is that part of our planning for next year?
Sure. Absolutely. But I'm going to flip to the next page, the next tab here, which is called Rule 78. But first, I just want to point out, so the managed services number we had last year was $1 million. That 20% makes it 1.2 million. So that's an important number for us to know. So we need to build, right, $200,000 worth of recurring revenue for next year. It's our goal.
Good call out. So that's, if you look at that, that's 200,000, an extra 200,000. That would be what? Divide by 12. But see, that's fuzzy math, Jeff. I got to get out my calculator for this sucker. So yeah, it's, about $17,000 per month in managed services. That's a good number to know that we have to hit, right?
Right. But it's not as easy as that, as you know. And that's where the rule of 78 comes in.
Take us home.
So as you can see, we're going to start back down here at the final number, right? There's our $200,000. That's 202,800 to be exact. But what do we need to get there is this number, $2,600 a month, right? And
so
the
that's
rule
one agreement every month, $2,600.
Correct. Now, rule of 78 means it's not as easy as multiplying by 12. There's actually 78 different squares here in this chart, right? It's a 12-month chart from January to December. But if you count all these 2,600s, there's actually 78 of them, which means, and really in simplified terms, what that really says is for every $1,000 worth of recurring revenue will translate into $78,000 worth of recurring revenue.
Gotcha. So if all right, so we got, all right, let me kind of dumb this down because, hey, math wasn't I was good at math, but
you and me both.
I needed some work. So if we set a goal of 200,000 in new managed services, you divide that by 78, that gets us a goal of 2,564. Your example, we're hitting 202,800. So divide that by 78. We got to have one new managed service client, $2,600 a month, or in that case of the 200,000, that's $76.92 per quarter to be on track to hit our goal. New. Yeah,
correct.
7,800 right there.
I like round numbers, so I actually rounded it up to 2,600. You're 25.
Love it.
So round up, not down, right?
That's right. Hey, that's a really good point because if you round up, that will offset when you have a quarter that might be a little bit shy of the number or maybe fall flat in a quarter, right?
Right, correct. And I have the spreadsheet rounding up, and that's why it comes to 202, not because it was going to come up below 200, so we wouldn't have made our number. But I want to go back to that one number that we had here of 9524, our average agreement size. So as you could see here, 2,600 is a lot less than 9524, right? So we don't need to really come up with a $9,500 agreement anymore, right? So this kind of puts it into perspective as well, is really if I only get one deal a month at 2,600, I'm still going to make my number.
Oh, so, okay. Good call out on there. So we've got an MSP in this sample. Is doing their average managed service agreements about $9,500.
Which was
but
prior.
They're going after maybe some larger fish, or I would imagine we're not getting into target client profile and things like that, but target client profile probably does play a little bit of a role here, right?
It does, and what it shows is we really don't have to be as aggressive as we've been in the past to make our numbers. Here we were trying to go for, if you put it in fishing terms, which is a good analogy during sales, we were going for that, that tuna every time we went fishing in order to eat, and we ate for the year. But now, if I just go look for smaller fish and go look maybe for something a little bit smaller, I can get a larger number of them, but I could still eat.
Yeah. It's definitely from a standpoint like of this, your target industry. If you're, again, this is just an example, but you pointed out, we don't need to hit that big number every single time. If you hit a few small ones along the way, it's going to, helping you hit your goal anyway.
Correct.
Good
So
stuff.
that's
Nice.
Rule of 78. Anything else you think we should point out on the Rule of 78 calculator?
No, that's pretty good. I love that. I think that's pretty well stated. So we kind of gone through setting sales targets, right? So, the sales targets we need to achieve our growth. Obviously, we just can't pray and wish our way to kind of achieving those goals. So how does an MSP plan, the road to kind of get there to, in your case here, establish of getting a, one managed service agreement each and every month for around $2,600? What do we have to do around the other KPIs or goals that we have to set to grow next year?
Yeah, and we have a sales pipeline plan tab, as you can see here to the right, but I just want to quickly jump on, if you're tracking monthly, we actually even give our clients a something similar to this for tracking their monthly numbers to between plan and actual, just so we can keep tabs on it. And if you happen to measure by quarter, we also have a quarterly option here too. Just wanted to jump on those two tabs as we get to our sales pipeline.
What was your preference, by the way, when you had salespeople? Did you establish monthly KPIs, quarterly? How'd you measure them? Did you look at it each and every month and kind of inspect monthly, quarterly? What did you do?
Yeah, we did it monthly. We definitely did it monthly. Quarterly, I wasn't a big fan of, because you didn't catch issues until for 3 months later. Like if I had one of my salespeople were not doing well and not keeping up or meeting their numbers, then I really didn't, I wasn't made aware of that for a whole quarter later, right? So
Yeah.
I like to manage month to month instead of quarter to quarter.
Yeah, I like that. So I had, when I had my weekly one-on-ones with my salespeople, we had quarterly sales targets with monthly KPIs. And then when we looked at the number, are we on track, off track for the quarter? Because in certain, it certainly could be cyclical depending on your target industry, on when you're bringing in new business. So I love what you said, inspecting, are we on track, off track, monthly, and diving into that number. I typically didn't, I really didn't have to put performance improvement plans in play. I could see literally on a monthly to the quarterly basis whether they were on track, off track. If they had a bad quarter, the goal was, we need you to rebound, right? Next quarter can't be like this quarter. Especially if you have a new salesperson, you kind of set up a bullet point to say, hey, we want you to achieve this number, and you're off. Us as owners, with this kind of discussion, we can really see whether we're totally on track and what we need to do. If we actually were honest with ourselves and re-inspected the number and saw we had a bad quarter, we could probably look back to last quarter and say, I really didn't prospect as well as I should have.
Exactly.
So I agree with you. There's a lot of answers that can come from inspecting these numbers. So
yeah, you got to correct the course. Course correction is much better if you do it more often.
That's right. It's going to keep driving if you're lost, right?
Exactly. Well, we can have a whole discussion about that.
Hope not. So
yeah.
All right, keep going. Sorry to divert us there. What else we
No,
have
that's
here?
okay. That's okay. So sales pipeline, you know, this was something, if you know what your pipeline should be, you're never going to have a hard time making your numbers. And how we come up with pipeline is really, it's very easy to figure out, but until you know what your close ratio is, we have to just kind of guess right now. And
So what is a close ratio? What's the definition of close ratio for you, for the audience?
yeah, so close ratio is how many prospects do you land um, out of the whole, well, how many closed proposals you have divided by how many prospects you actually spoke to.
Okay.
So
Oh, spoke to. So that would be like a first time appointment. People you had a first time appointment that wound up closing.
sure. So if I had 4 appointments and they only translated into 2 deals closed, then that's a 50% close ratio,
Yeah. Okay. Got you.
right?
What would impact that? Like what would impact our close ratio?
Oh, lots of different things. First of all, experience is one. As we sell, we begin to ask for the order much easier. A lot of times, people just don't ask for the order. It's sometimes as simple as just being a little bit more aggressive. But also having a good TCP and staying within your TCP helps close ratio tremendously.
Mm.
And yeah, we could take a quick minute just to explain why, because part of closing is people like to buy from MSPs that understand their business, right? And that's where the TCP comes into play, because within that is a vertical specialization or verticals that you're familiar with. If you could prove to a customer that you're an expert in their vertical and are comfortable with their vertical, and address specific business outcomes that have to do with their vertical, your close ratio goes up quite a bit because people like to buy from companies that understand their business.
100%. Like from a standpoint of talking to a generalist versus, and again, we're not like the gurus of that industry. Like we didn't create their line of business application, but understand how they make money, how they can lose money, how line of business applications, at least understanding the generalization of that and how technology can help them are huge. And then it'll allow you to, by understanding it, like you said, we can articulate the value
Right.
that the buyer has, right? If we can do that, boy, that would change a lot of things when we're talking about marketing, prospecting, lead quality, sales processes. Yeah. Yeah, your close rate definitely would go up.
So let me give you a quick example of that. My close
Okay.
ratio, believe it or not, was over 70%,
Wow. Holy smokes.
between 70 and 75%. And the reason for it is, as you know, I came from an MSP that serviced one vertical. That's all we did. We serviced dental practices, and that was the only customers that we marketed to and that we sold to. And that was half our battle, right? Walking into there, I can honestly say that walking in and having just that specific of a specialization was half the battle of closing that deal.
Mm, I
Because I
bet.
can't tell you how many times MSP or competition would come in who didn't have experience in a particular vertical. They basically were not even contenders. So it was, and I only had 2 other competitors in my market area that could claim that they were specialized like that too. So that just shows how the close ratio is so dependent on vertical specialization.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Great stuff. Go ahead and take us through this page real quick that you have us on around the sales targets monthly or quarterly.
Yeah. So as I said earlier, salespeople have to know what their pipeline needs to be in order to meet their numbers every month. So in order to figure it out, you basically here's our monthly target at 2,600. And just for argument's sake, we put in a close ratio of 30% here, which
Okay.
is which is a decent close ratio. And it shows that this particular salesperson needs to have just under $9,000, 8,667 worth of recurring revenue contracts in their pipeline.
Got it.
Okay.
So yeah, 8,600. If they win 30% of it, it's going to get them to the promised land of 2,600. Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. So that's about 3 proposals in their pipelines. Okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
Now, we also took a formula here, and this is our best guess, but if you take the number of proposals that you have in your pipeline and divide it by your close ratio, that should tell you how many prospects you need to see that month. So in this particular case, it's 11, right? If I need 3 and I have a close ratio of 30%, that means 30% or 30% of 11 is actually comes to the 3. So we actually need 11. We need to do 11 FTAs per month. So let me show you what we were talking about here. If we change this to 50%, let's just say we're getting really good at this and we have clear, unique selling proposition. As you can see now, I only need 4 appointments this month in order to make my number.
Wow. Big difference.
Big difference.
That's all around having a target industry and a unique selling proposition to be able to articulate our value.
Exactly.
Awesome. Great example.
Okay.
So this is just really good. So I love this to be able to create these quarterly, monthly targets. And, I don't know about you, but when it came to performance of my salespeople, at the end of the day, these KPIs are what mattered, right? Like how many first-time appointments did you get? How many meetings did you get with people that had intent? It's probably the key word with an FTA is like they have an intent of making a switch. Doesn't mean they are, but they have the intent to do so. And then how many proposals did you create and what's in the pipeline? If you didn't see the right number in the pipeline, pretty sure you're not going to hit your sales targets, right? So,
Right. Exactly. And that's what we go here. We have a weekly accountability page, right?
yeah,
And this is
okay.
where we could talk about what are the different things we need to do in order to get those 4 new FTAs every month, right? Going to events, working LinkedIn, having pre-qualification meetings, having coffee meetings with centers of influence, things you've talked about in other podcasts that you've had. But we need to track all that so we can see activity in order to get these numbers.
For us is, for the MSP owners that are out there, what Jeff just talked about, coffee meetings with centers of influence or referral sources, getting intro meetings, networking, using LinkedIn, like these don't take an awful lot of time each and every week. So you can do that. For salespeople, like you should be doing this on overload. For MSP owners, like should salespeople be making phone calls? And I guess this is the question for you. Phone calls and emails and things like that. Why aren't they on here?
Well, they just don't have a really good return, especially cold calling. If you look at networking events and centers of influence, I mean, that's what separates the good salespeople from the average salespeople. The ones that don't have to, I used to tell my salespeople, if you don't want to make sales calls, I'll give you the secret. It's really cold calls and cold phone calls just do not produce as good a results as going out and finding people to like COI, center of influence, people that are going to bring you referrals, or going to a networking event. You could walk out of a networking event with at least 5 or 6 different prospects in your pocket, 5, 6 business cards. And you know how many cold calls you have to make in order to get 5 or 6 contacts that want to walk to you? Yeah, a lot, hundreds. So they just don't have a very good return in terms of time spent. So these are more useful, better used time.
From a KPI on this side, Jeff, like we just talked about it, these first time appointments are measurable for sales leaders out there, for owners that have salespeople. Like you should be doing one-on-ones with your team, but also going out on these first time appointments. A salesperson can't make up a first time appointment. The other thing they can't make up is actual revenue. At the end of the day, salespeople are all about revenue generation, right? Let's not get too far in the weeds around how many phone calls they made, how many emails, how many networking events. The end game's results here. If they're not achieving first time appointments or the sales numbers, this is where these numbers come into play. Because one of two things is happening if they're not getting first time appointments or their sales numbers is one, they need improvement around sales skills, around getting meetings, creating interest and curiosity. That's a sales skill. Or bottom line, they're just not working. One of the two things, Jeff. That's 100% true, right?
Yeah, and that's important. If they're not working, the one-on-one meeting is critical. Yeah, you should be meeting with your salespeople at least once a week for an hour to go over something, right? And it'll quickly become evident if you're meeting with them. And just having them track activities like this, whether you're doing it on a spreadsheet like this or use your CRM, or your PSA to actually track activity, just so that at least somehow we could pull up something every week and ask them about it and have a conversation about it.
That's right. Yeah, because if you sit there and you're harping on how many phone calls they made, like again, as a salesperson, like if my boss wanted me to make 50 phone calls a week, like I would just put in 50 phone calls a week. They typically wouldn't care as long as I was hitting my number, right? If I'm not hitting my number, they may say like, why didn't you hit the number? What went wrong? Things like that. And then we could dive into it together to figure out, hey, how can I get better at this, right? And that's what I appreciated as a salesperson, was a leader that could get me there. Now, for owners that are responsible for this whole thing, like this is just a great starting point to measure yourself and be able to get these things on your calendar, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, owners to actually go through this process before they hire somebody, I think is really important because they understand the work and what needs to go into making the numbers. And I think that in order to manage somebody, I think you have to have gone through that experience yourself too, which is why we developed this process for the owner, the owner-led sales initiative first, right? Before they actually hire somebody.
Yeah, exactly, right? You can kind of go see what has given you results, the things that have worked. You can kind of do the testing around networking, the places where you've networked, where you've gotten those meetings, like you mentioned, versus, you've kind of gone to places where you haven't gotten anything from. So you can guide your salesperson when that day comes. But more importantly, you hold yourself accountable to the results too, right? I think that's a big key with anybody is like, hey, what we talked about today is like, we're either growing or we're dying, right? That's the bottom line. So this will help for kind of self-reflection. Are we heading in the right direction?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Good
This is a
stuff.
great discussion, Jeff. I always love kind of going through this, looking at, one, it made me warm and fuzzy to look back on the past year of like how we have grown and the results we gave, but also to kind of look at, not only those achievements, where do we fail and what do we need to do to improve upon that? How do we improve year over year? And then to be able to put together this detailed planning for the year to come. a few months in advance. So that way we're ready to hit the ground running and attack it day one, right? Not day 30.
Exactly. And this spreadsheet makes it really easy to do because, I mean, I find that a lot of owners aren't doing it at all, right? They're not doing this at all. They're just sitting at their desk waiting for business to just come knocking at their door. And it doesn't work like that, unfortunately.
Yeah. It goes to my, my quote, like, being a Star Wars geek and all, like, hey, rebellions are built on hope. Your pipeline is not.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I might steal that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Use it away. Yeah. You're borrowing. It's sharing. Sharing is caring.
Sounds good. Well, I'm going to stop the recording.
Yeah. This was
share.
Stop the sharing. This has been phenomenal, Jeff. Thanks for taking. There was way more stuff on that spreadsheet that we go through, but I think from a high level for our audience planning for next year, this is some great stuff. So, kick it back to you for any final words or advice, final thoughts around planning and what you did in your MSP or whatever you want to share with the audience.
No, I just think, building a sales program in an MSP, it's work. It's work and it's hard work, and I think that's something that a lot of MSP owners, when they start an IT company, they don't realize, and I think it's really important to just understand that, that business just doesn't come. It just doesn't fall in your lap. We got to go build it. We got to go make it happen. And that's what it's all about. So the whole idea, I think, and this is a great discussion because I think the whole idea is at least putting time to analyze and understand numbers is just half the battle. Having a goal and achieving it and then putting a plan together to build to it is a must. It's a must for every owner. So just want to leave you with that.
I love it. That's a great way to wrap it up. I'm gonna key in on one thing you said. Make it happen, right? I think most people, when it comes to this, I'll tap into the Michael Jordan quote because I do it all the time. Some people wish it'll happen. Some people want it to happen. Others make it happen. Like, insert growing your MSP into that statement. Do you want to wish it to happen? Do you want to make it happen? What do you want? It's your choice, right?
Good point. Good point. Love Michael Jordan.
Yeah, the best. Hey, Jeff, thanks for being here and helping our audience with this planning. This has been fantastic.
No, it was a lot of fun. I appreciate it. No, looking forward to the next time.
Absolutely. Thanks again. Appreciate you.
All right. You too.
Just like a garden, your business is either growing or it's dying. Setting sales goals is a critical aspect of any successful sales strategy. It provides direction and focus. It enables measurement and accountability, and it drives improvement. For an IT service provider, setting specific sales goals can help guide business growth and ensure the team is aligned with the company's strategic objectives. Here's some other things I want you to think about and goals to consider as you go through your planning for the next year. One, optimize the sales process, improve lead qualification methods, and refine sales pitches. You want to make sure that we're delivering a consistent, clear message and doing the right things. Two, provide access to relevant training programs, workshops, and industry certifications. We got to be improving our sales skills, as we talked about in this podcast. And then three, streamline the sales process, reducing and eliminating bottlenecks and leveraging sales automation tools. Plenty of AI sources out there now to help you do these things. By setting clear and actionable sales goals, you can focus your efforts and resources on achieving meaningful results, the numbers that you want to hit. So I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast from. If you like today's episode, please share it with your friends, other salespeople, and leave a review. If you listen to this podcast and need more details, or you're just a visual learner like I am, please go to Pax8's YouTube channel and look under podcast for the Result Selling Framework podcast. And then just look for the podcast called Sales Action Plan, and you'll find the visuals there. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next month.